I'm so proud that our next speaker is here with us today. Please help me in welcoming Ben Marks, Magento Evangelist at Adobe Magento Association Board Director. Is his topic Future of Magento? Woo!
A lot of really nice people in this ecosystem. She happens to be one of those people I run into, along with Jaroslav and lots of the AtWorks team everywhere. It's a lot of nice people. Not too many assholes. I mean, if we're being honest, right? No, this is a really good ecosystem. I actually just tweeted about some humbling thing that I heard from someone I just met out here, out in the lobby. Talking about, there we go. Maybe I'll take it out of that pocket. Talking about, what an impact, I've had in my career around the world just through those videos. I mean, it was a complete accident that I ended up in the videos. It very easily could have been Vinay Kopp. Probably should have been Vinay Kopp, if we're being honest. But really, the story there is just how much Magento has changed the world, has changed the lives of pretty much everyone in this room. And you repeat that thousands and thousands of times the world over. It's a very humbling thing for me to realize. So, I'm speaking on the future of Magento. I want to be very clear. You should not purchase any stock. You should not sell any stock based on what I'm saying here. I'm here because I think Magento, Adobe, at our best, we're being forthright and honest with our ecosystem. I think when we give you the information that we have as soon as we have it, and if we tell you what we're thinking about, that not only does that allow you to make the right decisions for you and your customers, but I think it also makes all of us better at this business that we're in. So a very simple agenda. Thank you for the lovely template. This was very helpful as I was dashing this out on a plane ride to maybe Romania, Poland, a couple days ago. And just first, in just explaining why it is I'm up here talking about this, what I think the future of Magento is, and then if you have any questions. And then I will tell you that after this presentation, we'll have myself and a few of my colleagues from Magento up here in a fireside chat. I think the fire will be over there. With Slava moderating. So who is Ben Marks? Ben Marks is probably my best role is connecting you with the real person you should be speaking with at Magento when you have an issue, a concern, an idea. This role of mine, when I was hired by Magento 5 years ago, this role of mine, it has everything to do with I think Magento was maybe a little disconnected. If some of you were around for the eBay days, we were a little disconnected from our ecosystem, to put it mildly. And I was able to kind of come in and just close some of those communication gaps. These days, it's much less necessary, right? Which is not to say that I'm less necessary. If any of my bosses watch this tape. But we're much better, I think, at interacting with you. And certainly if you've worked with community engineering, you've really worked with us as a company in the past couple of years, I think you've seen the investments that we've put into our ecosystem engagement. So I wanted to get up here in front of you and say that, because I get this question a lot, is Adobe going to kill off the Magento brand? Is Adobe going to take Magento up market? Fill in any question you can think of, and pretty much I've been asked that question. I think those decisions are being made, certainly. I think there was a strategy when Adobe decided to acquire this product, this company, this ecosystem. But I'm here to tell you that you are very, very much a part of that direction. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. But first I want to tell you where we are today. So we have far greater than 100,000 stores online running Magento. Exactly how many? Can't tell you. Built With has some pretty good data on it. But suffice it to say that it's still quite a large number. We have well over 100,000 ecosystem members. We have estimated anywhere between 150, 300,000, don't really know. That is the joy and the absolute pain of being an open source product. At the end of the day, people can grab our code and operate without any connection to us. We have no idea who they are. We just know that they're out there being successful. And in fact, some of this data we only find out inferentially, like through some of our technology partners. But it's very curious. People don't really know, the consumers out there don't know that it's Magento. I had a very nice email from, I think her name was Margaret. I don't know where Margaret lives, but she was suggesting that we offer some financing options for our store. So I had to ask her a couple questions. How did you get my email? And who are you actually trying to contact? Who's that store? Because I'd love to get you in touch with them so you can offer your suggestion to them. It just kind of underscored the fact that we just don't know. We don't know many people that are using our software and people who are working in this ecosystem. Maybe some of you have seen the GMV number. This was done, verified through, or generated and verified through some industry analysts who are pretty good at getting these numbers right. So basically, we figure $150 billion per year gross merchandise volume is flowing through Magento code bases. Now, the effect of that, so all of you in here who are deriving salaries or contract payments based on working in the Magento space, you take that up and aggregate it across the world each year, that is a $5 billion ecosystem. That's a lot of money, right? I mean, I don't really see much of that at all myself. We as a company don't really capture a lot of that value. This can be kind of a brag slide. This is not really a brag slide for me. This is up here to demonstrate, we have tremendous influence in how commerce works. And that influence helps fund this whole party and keep it going. But the overwhelming majority of the money in this ecosystem stays in the ecosystem. That's the open source business. This is the long tail stuff that happens. This is also a lot of the enterprise stuff that happens. And increasingly will be more and more enterprise stuff that happens as we move into the era of Adobe Commerce. Another impressive number recently, and many people in this room are involved directly with this number. Lines of code. Don't actually focus on it too much, but really it's just a way of demonstrating that so much of the effort and the output that goes into our code base is coming from this ecosystem. For me, that's actually really important because I used to work for a living. Thank you. I used to work for a living, and I remember being in the agency, and I remember going down those nasty, dark rabbit holes of totals calculation or some other obscure validation section and finding some problem, finding some bizarre code-based limit on how much data you can post between pages, things like that. And we didn't really have a great way of solving it. Some of you have been around this long enough to know that when you wanted to contribute to Magento 1 early on, you know what you had to do? You had to download a PDF, print out that PDF, sign that PDF, and you had to fax that bad boy. Fax, F-A-X, fax that to an office in Los Angeles. And that was how you fulfilled your contributor license agreement. This is not how open source contribution is supposed to work. Suffice it to say, we've changed that. If you were in Max's presentation earlier today, he actually talked about the program and then the numbers around contribution. But it's a very important thing. because I think we all know that it is much better when a feature is implemented or a problem is solved by someone who is working with that, who feels the pain of maybe the bug that was there or the feature that was missing or something that wasn't quite as extensible as it needed to be. So when we work with our community to build stuff, that code we get from the person that knows that they have to use that to solve a client problem tomorrow, that code is going to be well informed. So really, we're kind of aggregating your experience, and we're putting that into the product. And that's significant. Now, we only do that through the millions of dollars that we as a company invest in our efforts to facilitate contribution, to facilitate engagement. Okay? Now, all right, we're going to turn off the video, right? Totally. Turn off the video. Because we don't want the bosses hearing me talking about this. Magento is a company. I still talk about it like we're not part of Adobe sometimes. At some point, I'm sure I'll be instructed to say Adobe, always Magento and Adobe company. Magento as a company, if we take it that way, we are very much under development inside the umbrella of Adobe, right? If you're in this business, I encourage you to look at learning more about the Adobe products that sit adjacent to Magento in this digital experience organization. It would be a wise thing to do. But I also see a lot of transformation, just like I see internally, I see a lot of transformation externally. So I've watched with not an inconsiderate amount of pain the transition that we had from Magento 1 to Magento 2. I think we all know that there are some people who are not sitting in chairs here today who, the Magento 2 world wasn't a place for the business that they had. The business that they had under Magento 1 just didn't translate to the Magento 2 era. It's painful to talk about, but it's a reality. And I'm here really to make sure that we're very clear about where we're going so that people can make those decisions, as I said. So what do I see happening? Well, I see Adobe has taken very good care of Magento. There was a little feeling in my stomach when my boss, who did the Adobe deal, called me last year. I literally just arrived to the day before Meet Magento Italy and said, hey, in about 5 minutes, there's going to be some big news, and told me what was coming. The hesitation I felt was based on the experience that I had had as part of this ecosystem when it was under eBay. Adobe have proved themselves to be really good stewards. They're a great company to work for. A lot of my colleagues at Adobe were themselves came in through an acquisition. They're still there, years and years later, right? That doesn't happen by accident. Adobe's very, very intentional and deliberate about their culture, and has a pretty ethical and well thought approach to how they're building this huge commerce story. But at some point, I do think that Adobe wants to talk about Adobe Commerce. Adobe Commerce is a term. Came up. Hello. There I am. I found myself once again in Kiev. Adobe, what was I saying? Commerce story was, we were talking about Magento. Right. Take my job very seriously. They want to tell the commerce story. So that term came up on a slide at one of our events, or maybe in a webinar or something, earlier this year, maybe even late last year. And that's the right story to tell, right? I mean, this is after all, this Adobe is the big name in the room. And that makes me wonder what's going to happen with the Magento brand. And I can tell you from discussions and musings that I have with you all, that I have internally, I don't have the sure answer there. But what I do know is that when you combine what we've done over the last few years with community engineering, and you look at a period of transition where we know something is going to happen. something is coming. The only way that that's possible is by putting a lot of the power in your hands. Take, for example, MSI. How long? Is anyone here from like the original core team? I mean, you worked with Boris and Dima. Anyone? Yeah, back there. Yep. So, I mean, we had stub code basically for multi-source. Like you had multiple location inventory. That stub code was in Magento 1 from like the earliest days, but it just sat there on the backlog and just sat there, and just never enough points left in the bucket to pull that out of the backlog and put it into the product. And lots of people solve this problem in various ways. We gave the community some power, some discretion, and said, hey, where you want to put your efforts, put them there. We have an entirely remodeled inventory representation, right? MSI was delivered. That's a big story. I mean, that's just one of the many stories that demonstrates how much power and control you have. Now, you have to have a voice to do that. We have to give you a place and a way to do that. But I think regardless of the few places that I might see Magento going as a brand, as a software in the future, every single one of them involves and relies on you. So many of you know the ways to be involved. I've picked out a few. Of course, we have forums. They should be receiving a whole bunch of new translations, including for the interface, very soon. This is, if you remember the very, very old forums, which was one of my first acts as Grand Poobah of the community, was to kill the old forums. It was like an old expression engine implementation that was spammed to death. Our community manager, Sherry Rohde, runs this, and you can thank her for all the translations that are coming. I think we have 8 new languages being facilitated there. Our Magento U, our education arm, this was how I got my in with Magento, was becoming one of the first instructors along with Vinay. That has grown to offer, all of the certifications that Sinisa has. How many? 10. I don't even remember working on 10. And courses to go along with that. And the direction that is going now is more self-paced, so you don't need to rely on us to come to a city and spend a lot of money out of the office to learn more. And we always take suggestions, by the way. If you see something missing, absolutely send me an email. You can send Richard an email, whomever. They have an email. DevDocs. Our documentation. Hey, we have documentation now. We've really come a long way since Magento 1. Documentation is pretty damn good. And we build it in collaboration with you. If you don't know, go to the documentation. See something you don't like, see something missing, top left corner. File an issue, submit the content if you want. I mentioned community engineering. How many of you are familiar with our community engineering team and program? This is far too few hands. This is literally how we make Magento work. So we have a team of community maintainers. So these are people from the ecosystem who are empowered to review and merge. We have our own team that facilitates that. So all of their activities, they help us groom. Make sure that we're paying attention to the issues that need to be paid attention to. We're making sure that we're helping people get started contributing for the first time. We have 450 new, first-time contributors just this year. And we're on track to probably outpace even the degree of engagement that we had last year. I mean, this is thousands and thousands of people making Magento different tomorrow than it was yesterday. Also important here, if you don't know, we literally have all the keys that you need to make decisions about your Magento journey under our architecture repository. That's where really smart Ukrainians like Anton Kryl and various others, and maybe a couple of Yanks thrown in, this is where they go and they banter. They do that architect thing, and they just go back and forth. And they do that in public so that you can see the chain of decision making that is actually leading to where this application is going in the future. right? And then you can see even today, you can influence that. You can actually participate in that discussion. It's an open repository. And you can say, hey, I think that's a really bad idea. I mean, recently we had, there was concern, I think, that the vendor folder was going away. I think that dusted up on Twitter. That ring a bell? Yes. Alan Storm even came out of retirement and got involved in that. Basically what we did was, as a community, we made sure that, your needs, how you use the system, was well represented in that conversation. Okay. PWA Studio, I think there have been several presentations on that. I encourage you just to be informed. They have weekly sessions with Eric Irway, the excellent PM on the project. You can kind of see where we're going with PWA. Make no mistake, as far as planning for your future, PWA is a thing. Even if it's not exactly how we envision it today, the bits and bobs of PWA have been falling into place over the past couple of years. I mean, it makes sense. As a set of incremental improvements, it's a breath of fresh air. I know this every time I go to India and try and look at the web, or I'm back. I go to exotic places with crappy internet, like the New York subway. I'm on my phone, and then I'm gone. Right, and I'm crap, and then I get blank page instead of an app that still works. The future that's coming, the future that Google is writing there, because they write the RFCs, the future that's coming there is, your browser is going to be akin to something like WeChat. I mean, it's really going to know who you are and be able to represent you and allow for things like payments to be paid offline that can just process once you reconnect. This is the stuff that's really going to happen. The unofficial source is one of my proudest creations, the Stack Exchange site dedicated to Magento. Started that 6-7 years ago, I think. Just recently was removed from a moderator because, I haven't been moderating. It's fair. But Marius is still there, our Romanian champion, making sure that questions are well-formed and relevant. I'll jump over to the Innovation Lab. If you have anything that you're doing that's novel with Magento, like you're putting it on a toaster, or you're doing something cool with mixing it, combining it with other technology, and it's not yet a product, please participate, tell us about it. We want to know, and we will help you promote that down the road. Like we'll help you with your PR, we'll help you build a video story around it, and we'll invite you out to our trade shows, and you'll be right there at the Magento booth demoing how innovative this ecosystem is. And then, of course, if you want to be involved, there's always Twitter. Twitter is somewhat regionally bound. It's not a great, worldwide representation. It's really bad in China. But this is where a lot of people banter about it as well. And then, of course, there's all the 15 different Slack organizations around Magento. Community Engineering has one. There's the MageChat Slack as well. And then I want to jump up to the association. How many of you have heard of the Magento Association? Also far too few hands. I mentioned earlier that you should have a voice, and you should have a voice. We don't have a great way, singular way. I mean, you can kind of maybe interact on GitHub, and we can see maybe by show of thumbs up that an issue is particularly important or a feature is really important on the backlog repository. But what we did was we needed something that would look after the Meet Magento event series. How many of you have been to a Meet Magento event? Meet Magento is an excellent chance to meet people from around the world in different settings. I tend to go to a lot of them because that's my job. But there are, I think, like 15 this year. In the course of my work for this company, I've been to 50 countries. So they happen all over. And it's interesting how different the community is in different places. It's amazing how different the business is in each place. But Meet Magento, believe me, has been critical in helping Magento feel like a local relevant product for given markets. They've been doing that for years. We wanted to make sure Meet Magento would continue. So what my boss did a couple years ago was said, hey, let's form our own trade association in the US. Let's work with Meet Magento Association. Let's make sure that this party can continue. And because we paid a lot of money to do that and continue to support it, and we'll be supporting it for the foreseeable future, along with some partners, new title partners that we're going to name at Magento Live, I got to have a seat on the board. It's just kind of the rules. If you pay a lot of money, you get a board seat. But the other board members, 8 of them, all from the ecosystem, not controlled by Magento. We did that because we knew the reason Meet Magento is successful is because it's an independent voice. And as we were building this, we said, you know what? We should have a way to bring the Meet Magento spirit, that honest dialogue, the ability for someone like Tim Beshishvili to stand up like he did at Meet Magento Germany 2014. You know what? Enterprise is bullshit, right? His arguments were incorrect, but there was something there because the whole crowd applauded. That was a moment. That was a necessary moment, right? It told us that we weren't engaging correctly with the German market. And we have largely fixed that since then, right? So the independent voice thing, that's critical. So what we're doing with the association, you can sign up now. You can go to that link. In fact, it makes me look really good when I give a presentation and say, hey, I talked about the association. And then look, all these people signed up from right here in Kiev. We figured that it would be a chance, a way to collect all of the opinions out there. We want people to be able to volunteer around this thing that we care about. We want people to be able to have a voice and to share that voice and to find each other and see, oh wait, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one with this problem. I'm not the only one that sees this is a need. I'm having trouble in this specific region. These are the kinds of things we should be unsurfacing because we're an open source company. An open source company is a lot more than just having code that you can read. It's a transparent, collaborative methodology. Okay, did you get everything done? Okay, and no snipers showed up from the home office to shoot me, so that's good. And I just got, it's like 10,000 steps. That pace a lot. Okay, that's that. With that, I think I have about 2.5 coconuts worth of time for suggestions, comments, questions. Anyone want to say I'm wrong?
Yeah, Ben, thank you very much for keeping us informed.
I can hear you, it's okay.
Yeah, and questions, please. Raise your hand.
This is, okay, I was going to say, this is going to be a first. I don't want to be the only person here who didn't get a question.
No.
And sorry, and I think so far it's not been a problem, but if anyone would prefer to ask your question in something other than English, hopefully someone will be able to translate for me. Because all I can say is basically like, Dobry den and budmo.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah, Dobry den, budmo. But budmo in like 30
Enough
minutes.
the party, yeah. So my question, maybe suggestion, were to maybe suggestion for the university, well, Magento University, which you, as far as I know, highly related to, right? So I should probably give a little bit of context.
You can give like about 32 seconds of context.
I think 40 seconds will be enough. We like a not very big, not very small Magento company, spent some time on migration from Magento 1 to Magento 2. And actually that year of migration, where we migrated most of our clients to Magento 2, was, let's say, not as profitable as all previous years. Because you're basically doing everything from scratch.
Right.
Then, from time to time, the updates are happening. Let's skip the minor updates, like from 2.3.1 to 2.3.2. Let's talk about the big one, from 2.2 to 2.3, right? How you basically adopt those updates, usually? You just try to make sure everything that worked on previous version works now. Because there is limited time, limited resources, and spending that much time on learning Magento from scratch or some new things is just not affordable for a lot of companies.
Yeah, depending on the company size. Look, I mean...
So I maybe have a suggestion or maybe solution which you may try to use. So you, from time to time, also need to upgrade your certifications in Magento University or your courses.
Yes.
Which we used also like 2 years ago to start.
Okay.
From 2.1, for example, that's where we started using Magento, to 2.2. And there are some big highlights, some changes which like you do for that.
Yeah, we move some things around.
So what if there would be like some kind of document or pack of courses where you will share that part of changes between major versions? Because let's say we spend some time on conference today, seeing things which may not be working. Half of them, as Igor Minailo said, may be a mistake, right?
It's entirely possible.
And what you usually adopt in certifications or in courses is what happened.
Yeah. So to sum up, I mean, basically, you would like some education specifically around the delta of maybe features and architecture between versions.
At least let's say major releases.
It's not a terrible idea. I mean, now. The snarky former engineer in me says there's the release notes, but I know that we all know how release notes go. But I would also, I mean, it is important, especially now with this new release architecture. So, there's two things important to that, and then I think I'm probably finished, right? Because we're done at 6. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, so it's imperative that. You should be able to update and update affordably, whether you're a merchant team or you're an agency with a bunch of merchants. And our new release methodology is really designed to do that, and you have to stay on top of that, obviously, because the longer you wait, the bigger that delta.
Of course. Yes.
We want there to never be regressions. It happens. So that's the reality. But I will take that to I guess I'll work with Chris on the product team, and then I'll also bring this up with Richard, who heads up the Magento U. It's a good suggestion, right? It's a good suggestion,
yeah,
and I think we can actually have some of our engineers maybe walk through those changes.
I just want to add 2 sentences here, like. We try to keep up on trends, on other ideas, and so on. Like we visit in such conferences, we go to Dare to Share, which were in Kyiv previously, right? The only thing is that when you work on it for Magento University, you're working on real delta, not on ideas which may not work.
Right.
And bringing to tables that real delta would probably help a lot to keep up with changes.
Duly
Not
noted.
just to fix whatever it worked on my previous version.
Duly noted.
Okay, thank you.
I think I have time for maybe one more question at least. Make it quick.
One more question.
No one wants to ask me about my amazing Bavarian vest. I've decided after Oktoberfest, I'm just gonna wear this shit everywhere I go. You're my ambassador of the Wiesen. Yeah, no one? Really?
Okay, no more questions.
Really? Oh, come on. Someone's got to have a question. Someone has a burning, like, always wondered like how that happened. Nothing. No? Yeah, there we go. See? All you have to do is just grovel and beg and someone else will ask a question.
Yeah. Hi, Ben. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation.
I worked very hard on it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So you wanted a question. Here you go.
Oh, shit.
So my question is, what capabilities do you have when you enter the Magento Association? What you can do with that membership?
That is a germane question. Hey, Slava, you want to answer that? No, Slava's on the board with me. So at least they've got that between the two of us. That makes at least one good person. Well, we are actually defining that right now. I mean, the big answer is we don't know, right? We do know, so kind of fundamentally basing everything on the idea that look at everything that's been built. I mean, there's no denying the DNA. I mean, especially this, I'm in the right place for this. It's a real honor to be at MageCONF. The DNA of Magento is here in Ukraine, right? So we know there are, I don't know how many businesses are represented here, how many solutions to customer problems, how many merchants are on Magento because of you all and because of your teams. You're a busy bunch, and you want to know that the work that you're doing matters. And that's what we're trying to do with the association, is actually just find each and every one of you. So what you will see, what I can tell you is if you sign up within the next month, you will see our approach to helping you basically define the topics that are important to you, and then discover your peers in this business that are also interested in that. Because everywhere I go, I guarantee you, I could walk out, I could stand at a table, someone could come up and say, hey, I have a question about this. And I guarantee you, if someone walking by will hear what we're talking about and say, oh yeah, that's interesting to me too. We need to really surface that stuff. We need to enable that. And that is 100% our job. So that's where we are now. You're welcome. You've got my contact information. You can bug the snot out of me. I really put this up there. You can WhatsApp me. Try and be sensitive about the time of day when you call, or my wife will get mad. But no, please, absolutely reach out to me. And from the bottom of my heart, it is truly an honor to be here in Kiev with you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben.